Okay, today's spiritual strength is very excited to bring to you Father Jeff Pomeisl, who was inspired to found a beautiful school of spirituality and formation called St. Joseph's Workshop. Father, thank you for joining us. Can you please elaborate on St. Joseph's Workshop for all of us?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Gene. St. Joseph's Workshop is a school of formation. Dr. Ralph Martin, I went to a conference with him recently, him and Scott Hahn and John Bergsma, and Ralph Martin said the greatest need that we have is for schools of formation and holiness for all people, especially lay people. And I'm really grateful to God. It seems like He's kind of led me to start something like that, a school of formation, actual banged out process by process, not just a program. It's not a program. I want to emphasize that. But it's almost like Saint Benedict's rule of life, where Saint Benedict said, here, if you want to live, here's a basic way to be a Christian. So do these things, live this way. And he didn't say that's the end and like there's nothing else other than what I'm writing to you. But what he said was, this is the foundation. This is going to be a building block for you to live a Christian life. And that's what St. Joseph's Workshop is. It's a rule of life, and it creates like a spirituality, what I call the spirituality of the Holy Family. It really is to help us to live like Jesus, Mary, and Joseph did in Nazareth. And so that's the basic concept of what St. Joseph's Workshop does. It gives you that school of formation to live like Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
That's great, and it's so important, especially the attack on the family that we're seeing now. And I guess that leads into my next question. What made you think, or what inspired you to start this now at this point in time in human history?
Exactly like you just said, with the crisis, the main crisis in the church and in the world is the crisis of family life. It's not like I came into the priesthood or the seminary seeing that exactly, but in college I started to understand that a little bit, reading about John Paul II and his teachings, theology of the body, familiaris consortio, and things like that. And I started to see the great need for holy families, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was learning as I went along. But as soon as before I became a priest, I dedicated myself to the Holy Family. I consecrated my priesthood to the Holy Family. And again, I wasn't sure why, but God just led me to do that. And that led me, as I went through parish life. I've been a priest I just celebrated my anniversary. I'm 7 years a priest now. So in those 7 years, the number one problem that I see is the breakdown of family life. Divorce, or parents not knowing how to give their faith to their children. And so as I saw this more and more being the major problem in the world, the spirituality the things I was teaching people were more geared towards helping them to be a good mom, to be a good dad, to be a good son or daughter. And those two things sort of naturally coalesce, the love of the Holy Family and the need for holy families, and the two just kind of became the spirituality of St. Joseph's Workshop.
Excellent. And Father Jeff, if you could explain how this school of spiritual formation, how has that affected you, which you've already implemented in your life, and also with other people local around you? How has this helped them, this devotion to the three hearts of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, specifically with St. Joseph's Workshop formation?
Well, I know some people who have been with me near the beginning. Some people have been with me almost, for 7 years now, kind of learning this. And let's just say they started out not even really going to Mass on Sundays. And again, now they're going to adoration every week, going to daily Mass, taking their kids to daily Mass. Their spouse has become Catholic. They go to confession more than once a month. They, have a great understanding of the Catholic faith, much better than they did before. Reading holy books, Introduction to the Devout Life, all Ratzinger's books, all really Imitation of Christ, So the person basically went from the very nominal Catholic and barely Christian family to really, one of the finest Christian families that I know. So that's just one example, and I think that's the potential of St. Joseph's Workshop.
That's excellent that they've grown. If we could even use the term spiritual strength, they've grown in that spiritual strength. But now also talk about the practicality of it and how they've grown as a family unit, being closer, being happier, day to day living, ordinary life.
Yeah, well, the woman that is I worked with the mom most particularly, and it's really through her that her family has been receiving the workshop. Now we run monthly meetings, so they go to it together for the most part, and they would go to the monthly meetings and things like that. But on a practical level, since I work with the mom the most, I know the most details from her, and like for instance, her relationship with her spouse is much more peaceful because she understands who she is as a mom and she understands who he is as the head of the family. And so, whereas maybe he would have a certain point of view and she would fight him about it, now she allows him to lead the family, and she feels more peaceful. He feels more peaceful. The kids feel more peaceful. So that's one really practical example. It could be the dog, jumping up on the counter, eating all the food, and then what would have been turned into outbursts of anger and rage and things like that, now becomes a moment where you can practice patience and, you know, uh, not let that disturb the rest of your day. So it's about as practical as it could be. Um, One of the things that I always emphasize that the workshop is all about, just like holiness and normal life, normal life. Padre Pio says, duty before holy things. Duty before holy things. Going to church and all that is great if you can do that, if you have time to do that. But I hear the people at the workshop say, "Oh, I know from the workshop that it's better for me to go pick up my kids from work rather than like go to a holy hour or pick up my kids from school or be there to take care of my family at home or teaches me to why I'm working hard in my job. you know it gives them a reason of why the little things can be holy, that's where holiness is found.
Right, absolutely. And we think about it that Jesus Christ himself, our blessed Lord, lived 30 years in that ordinary life, that ordinary family life. And that's why, like, we see the inextricable link between the Sacred Heart of Jesus, the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and the purest, most chaste heart of Saint Joseph. It's the most natural thing in the world. And bringing the family together and understanding the Catholic tradition of what it really means to be a family, what it really means to be a husband and a father, to be a mother and a wife, and to be a child and a holy family. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, Gene,
And
like you're 100% right. And the not only is the family, generally the family is in crisis more than anything else, but more specifically, fatherhood is in crisis. We don't have spiritual fathers, by and large. We don't, and which trickles down because spiritual is higher than the natural. So the crisis in spiritual fatherhood is trickling down, and we see a complete crisis in natural fatherhood. And that's why God, I believe, is raising up Saint Joseph's heart at this time. God had very quickly in the history of the church brought up devotion to the Sacred Heart. We can see why. And then our Lord himself attached to that the Immaculate Heart of Mary. But now we see everywhere people spreading devotion to St. Joseph and understanding that his heart has to go with the other two. If you have two but not the third, it's like having a family missing a spouse or not being open to children or a family doesn't make sense unless it's three. It has to be three in one. It has to be mom, dad, children. So why is it devotion to the Sacred Heart and Immaculate Heart missing Saint Joseph's heart? I think God is finally done with allowing us to miss that point, and He really wants us to see those three hearts have to go together, and the lessons we can learn from that are inexhaustible. I think the three hearts devotion will transform individual hearts. My school, the school of formation of Saint Joseph's Workshop, it focuses on transforming your own personal life. Then how do you transform your family life through your own personal conversion? And then your family, how does that affect your neighbors, your parish, your workplace? but it always centers back on your own personal conversion through the three hearts of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And I believe if you have devotion to the Sacred Heart, wonderful. If you have devotion to the Immaculate Heart as well, even better. But when you add in St. Joseph's Heart, now you have a complete picture and you will quickly become a saint. I really believe that, and I've seen it. Quickly become a saint.
Absolutely. And I truly believe that your School of Spirituality and Formation, the St. Joseph's Workshop, is a wonderful thing to fill in not the missing link, because it's not missing, it's the underemphasized link that needs to be put with the other two hearts, the hearts of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Father Jeff, thank you very much. Can you tell us more where we could support your work, your activity, your apostolate, St. Joseph's Workshop?
Yeah, I have a little blog. It's called fatherpomeisl.blog, FRPOMEISL.blog. I'm sure it'll be under the video, so people can go there. You can download for free the little manuscript. It doesn't take very long to go through. It's kind of a simple rule of life, and it'll give you the really practical steps there. I know one young man who's thinking about being a priest, and he read it in like an hour because he was just like, "Oh, this is awesome." He just plowed through it, and he couldn't get enough. So I also have on the fatherpomeisl.blog, they're not complete yet, but talks. I give like little talks explaining as if you were to come to the monthly meetings, and I would explain different steps of the spirituality. So I have some talks on there as well. But all the resources are free, and anybody can go there and look around. Right now, I'm not accepting any donations or anything like that because there's nothing to donate towards right now. But I believe in the future there could be more institutions and more work that people will be able to support. But right now, I'm really just asking people, and there are a lot of people already supporting spiritually by offering up prayers, sacrifices, mortifications, and just moral encouragement. So that's kind of the biggest thing right now.
Absolutely. And if God wills, what would be your ultimate vision for the future?
God willing, and of course, always under the jurisdiction of the hierarchy of the church and going slowly, steadily, patiently, and seeing what God brings. But if God willing, I would love to see it become actually something like a personal prelature. The only other one in the world that I know of is Opus Dei. So if people understand what they are, it would be something similar to that, but even a little bit different than they. But those are the only words that I have of looking at canon law that would seem to fit of where I think this could go. But again, that could be very, very far down the road, possibly even after my lifetime. But I think that it could be that if God wills it.
Excellent. Father Jeff Pomeisl, again, I've been through your materials. I love it. I love St. Joseph's Workshop. It's a great thing you're doing. Beautiful School of Spirituality and Formation. And we hope all of our viewers, all of you watching, make sure they check out your blog and they support you in any way possible. First and foremost with their prayers, and secondly, diving deeply into your materials. So thank you very much, Father Jeff.
Thanks, Gene. Really appreciate it.
Okay, God bless you.
God bless you.